In the heart of a bustling city, where marble skyscrapers shadowed rusty rooftops and private jets roared above abandoned train yards, two lives were about to collide, one shaped by opulence, the other by grit. Gabriella Monet, a poised billionaire. Tech CEO, whose name was whispered with awe in corporate circles. Had everything money could buy, everything except a cure for her daughter's legs. Little Aria was born with a rare neurological condition that rendered her unable to walk. Despite the army of doctors, therapists, and state-of-the-art medical devices she'd thrown millions into, her child remained silent, wheeled, and watched. A ghost of what she could be. Gabriella's mansion had more elevators than stairs, more nurses than friends, and still, the one thing she couldn't purchase was hope. One sultry summer afternoon, her luxury Rolls-Royce Phantom rolled through the industrial edge of town, a detour forced by a highway closure. The engine sputtered. Smoke billowed. The driver panicked, pulling over into a worn-out gas station that looked abandoned by time. Gabriella was on the phone trying to get a helicopter dispatch when she noticed a figure approaching. A tall, grease-smudged man in overalls, wiping his hands on a rag. "Need help, ma'am?" he asked, calm and unfazed by the shiny grille of the exotic car. Gabriella didn't even look up. "We're fine. I've called my team. Please don't touch the car." Her words, clipped and cold, bounced off the mechanic like rain off steel. But then he caught sight of Aria in the back seat, small, delicate, her hands curled around a plush rabbit, her eyes distant. "What's her name?" the mechanic asked. "Aria," Gabriella snapped, surprised by the personal question. "She doesn't walk," he nodded. "But she can feel music?" Gabriella blinked. "What?" He pointed to the earbuds in Aria's lap. "I used to play guitar. Built a device for my brother once. Helped his muscles respond to sound vibrations. Got him moving again. Sort of like dancing therapy, but with machines." "Doesn't always work, but that's enough," Gabriella said, climbing out, ready to summon a tow. But Aria, for the first time in hours, turned her head. She looked at the mechanic and smiled. "Music?" she whispered. It was the first word Gabriella had heard from her daughter in 3 weeks. Shock rooted her feet to the concrete. The mechanic, whose name tag read Jace, knelt beside the window and began humming a tune, soft, low, bluesy. Aria tapped a finger. "In rhythm, you see that?" Jace said, excited. There's spark in her coordination. Most folks don't notice it unless they're real close. "I could rig something, nothing fancy, just to try." Gabriella hesitated. Everything in her world was bound by credentials, board certifications, Ivy League pedigrees. Yet this man, with oil under his nails and a sunburned neck, had just done what 100 Harvard neurologists hadn't. Against all logic, she agreed. Over the next few days, Gabriella returned to that crumbling corner of the city with Aria in tow. She didn't tell her board or the media. She didn't bring her entourage. Just a mother in linen slacks and heels stepping into a garage that smelled of motor oil and possibility. Jace worked like a man possessed, welding wires, tuning frequency motors, attaching custom-built sensors to a tiny exosuit he'd once dreamed of patenting but never had the money for. Aria laughed during the sessions, truly laughed, and Gabriella, who'd once hosted galas for thousands, found herself making sandwiches in a plastic chair while watching her daughter slowly flex her knees to a beatbox track. Gabriella asked Jace how he learned all this. "My little brother was born with muscular dystrophy," he said, eyes distant. "Doctors gave up on him. I didn't." She swallowed. "What happened to him?" "He died," Jace said. "But he danced before he did." The silence between them was heavy. Gabriella looked down, ashamed of how she'd judged him. "Thank you for helping her," she whispered. Jace smiled. "I'm not doing anything special. She's got the will. I'm just giving it wheels." That night, Gabriella wept in her car. Not out of sorrow, but for the first time, because she saw a spark of a future she never thought possible. The woman who could fund space startups and AI labs was now hanging her hope on a rust-stained garage and a man with a heart bigger than any check she'd ever written. But Jace wasn't done. He had something planned, something big. And it would take more than grease and music to make it happen. It would take trust, faith, and maybe even love. The sun rose over the rusted rooftops of the industrial district, casting warm, golden light over the crumbling gas station that had, over the course of weeks, become a sacred place to Gabriella and Arya, a mother who had once ruled boardrooms with steel. Resolve was now pacing on cracked concrete in sneakers. Instead of stilettos, holding her breath while a poor mechanic fitted wires to her daughter's legs like they were spun from gold. It had been 23 days since the Rolls-Royce broke down. Since Arya smiled. Since Gabriella felt like she had purpose beyond wealth. Today was different. Jace had spent nights sleeping on the workbench, drinking gas station coffee, soldering connections. On a custom neural adapter he cobbled together from broken drones and old gaming sensors, his exosuit was ready. The real test was about to begin. Ta-ta. Gabriella didn't understand the science, only the stakes. As Jace strapped the lightweight braces to Arya's tiny legs, he looked at her with the warmth of someone who didn't see disability, only potential. Okay, Arya? Remember how we practiced moving your toes to the music? Arya nodded, biting her lip. Gabriella crouched beside her, gripping her small hand tightly. Jace turned the device on. Soft melodic tone, somewhere between a lullaby, and a heartbeat filled the garage. Lights flickered. A gentle vibration ran through the braces, syncing with the rhythm. At first, Arya didn't move. Then, slowly, her right foot twitched. Gabriella gasped. Again, Jace whispered, barely breathing. The little girl's eyes lit up. Her left foot responded. And then, with trembling grace, Arya, the girl, who had never walked, lifted herself up. For a moment, time stood still. Gabriella dropped to her knees, both hands over her mouth. Her daughter, her beautiful, broken little girl, was standing. She wasn't being held up by a nurse or suspended by hospital wires. She was holding onto a single bar Jace had welded to the wall, and her own strength, and the music pulsing through the suit was guiding her. She took one step, then another, and another. Gabriella sobbed, not like the elegant tears she cried during foundation galas or charity events. Now, these were raw, guttering sobs, the kind that cracked open her ribs and spilled every ounce. Of pain she had held in for 6 years? She's walking, she cried. She's walking. Shh. Stepped back, his eyes wet but smiling. I told you, just needed to find her rhythm. But the moment was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, word began to spread quietly. At first among local therapists, a few doctors who were open-minded enough to witness what was happening in a garage rather than a lab. Gabriella wanted to invest, not with money, but with purpose. She offered Jace a multi-million-dollar lab. He refused. I'm not doing this to get rich, he said. I just want kids like Arya to dance. Gabriella paused. Then let me build a space where you can do that. 4 more. Children. For families who can't afford what I can. For the first time in a long time, Jace agreed. Together, they transformed the old station into a community center called the Rhythm House, a fusion of mechanics and therapy. Music and movement, where hope came on wheels and wires. Arya became the face of the program, her journey captured. In a viral video that exploded online, a girl once told she would never walk, now twirling on her own 2 feet to a tune only she could hear. Media attention poured in. News anchors begged for interviews. Parents lined up down the block, praying for a chance for their child. But Gabriella wasn't interested in fame, not this time. Her only focus was on scaling Jace's technology, ethically, carefully, and most of all, for those who needed it most. One rainy evening, long after the last child had gone home and the lights were dimmed, Gabriella stood beside Jace in the garage turned laboratory. I used to think I could buy my daughter's future, she said, voice quiet, but you gave it to her with your hands. Jace smiled, wiping his brow. She gave it to herself. I just handed her the keys. They stood in silence. Then Gabriella turned to him. What would you say, she whispered, if I offered you more than a lab? He raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. A home with us. Jace blinked. Are you saying I'm saying I haven't just seen Arya walk? I've watched you bring her back to life. And you brought me back too. Wasn't the kind of love story that began with champagne and city views. It was built in grease and wire, and a child's laughter echoing in an old garage. The poor mechanic and the billionaire mother, bound not by status, but by purpose. Months later, at a charity gala hosted inside the gleaming new Rhythm House HQ, Gabriella stood beside Jay Cesaria. In a sparkly blue dress and her exo-assisted braces, took the stage to perform a short dance to the song that started it all. The crowd of thousands erupted into applause. Gabriella, watching with tears falling freely, whispered to Jace, "This is the miracle money could never buy." He took her hand. "No," he said, "this is the miracle love built."